Hi, welcome to Take 5, where we daily consider devotional thoughts from Oswald Chambers' book, My Utmost for His Highest. Today is June 26th, and the title of today's devotional is Drawing on the Grace of God Now. We plead with you not to receive the grace of God in vain, 2 Corinthians 6 and verse 1. Today's study deals with grace. Grace is defined as the unearned, undeserved love which God has for us. The last verse of chapter 5 tells us that God made Jesus, who knew no sin, to be sin on our behalf, that we become the righteousness of God in Christ. That is the extreme measure toward us of God's grace. The start of chapter 6 deals with the need of our leaning on His grace under the most difficult of circumstances. Chambers starts by mentioning the freshness of God's grace each day. The grace you had yesterday will not be sufficient for today. Grace is the overflowing favor of God, and you can always count on it being available to draw upon as needed. God's love is new every day. There will be trials of life every day we face in which we can depend on His overflowing love to sustain us. Chambers quotes, "In much patience, in tribulations, in needs, in distresses, that is where our patience is tested." Are you failing to rely on the grace of God there? Are you saying to yourself, "Oh well, I won't count this time"? For me, I would describe this as my concentrating on how bad things are in my life rather than on how good God is. It's the tendency to focus on problems rather than the provider. Christians are offered the opportunity to always be in touch with God through prayer. Chambers says it is not a question of praying and asking God to help you. It is taking the grace of God now. This directs us to reword what we normally say of, "God will help me through this," to "God is now helping me through this." We should not say, "I need to remember to pray about this." Rather, pray about it right then and there. O.C. says we tend to make prayer the preparation for our service, yet it is never that in the Bible. Prayer is the practice of drawing on the grace of God. Don't say, "I will endure this until I can get away and pray." Pray now. Draw on the grace of God in your moment of need. Prayer is to be the continual habit of one's life. In stripes and imprisonments, in tumults and labors, in all these things, display in your life a drawing on the grace of God, which will show evidence to yourself and to others that you are a miracle of His. Paul speaks of trials that are likely beyond the depth of any for those which which are beyond what you and I suffer, but for the first century Christian they were common. Beatings and imprisonments, unmerciful affliction for the cause of Christ. The living out of dependence on His grace through the hardest of circumstances will evidence to others His living inside of you. Draw on His grace now, not later. The primary word in the spiritual vocabulary is now. Let circumstances take you where they will, but keep drawing on the grace of God in whatever condition you may find yourself. There are no worst of situations on which we need to wait in order to pray. What's bad off in my life may not be critical for you, but it is for me. Grab a hold of His grace for the great needs in your life. Chambers says one of the greatest proofs that you are drawing on the grace of God is that you can be totally humiliated before others without displaying even the slightest trace of anything but His grace. We have a tendency to get angry and fight back at hardships that come our way, but not recognizing them as times to display God's love, because actually we are in a time of spiritual warfare. Allow God to bring you through the worst of times and let others see His humbleness of spirit working within you so they will recognize there to be something different about you that they wish they had as well. Thanks for being here today. God bless you. And now may God's grace and peace be ours as we seek to live our utmost for His highest. Have a great day. Bye now.